And before I invite Judge Krause to lead us in the pledge, I would like to go over some Zoom points for today's meeting. First, this is not our first virtual meeting. We know how to do this, but as a reminder, chat is enabled, but it will not be monitored for questions. If you have a question, that's in the Q&A section. Just a friendly reminder to be aware of what you are putting in the Zoom chat. This meeting is being recorded. It's live. Members of the public are here. We might have members of the press. And we welcome everyone to attend this meeting. This is a plenary session as well. And so we do have regular members as well that could be present. So just a friendly reminder. So if you have a question and do not wish to speak, you may use the Q&A feature. Q&A will be monitored by Damon, who's going to alert me, and also the handy group of folks that are also on the screen are also good at looking and monitoring the questions. To be seen and heard for questions or comments, you must use the raise your hand feature, and you will be recognized by me or whoever is presenting, and Jennifer and Michael will unmute you and promote you as a panelist so you can be seen, and Damon's going to alert me too. But a friendly reminder, because we are all in our homes probably and not necessarily in our offices, if you are still in your PJs and still in your bed, make sure to keep your camera off unless you want the universe to see and know that. All active bar members are allowed to vote on the bylaw changes in the plenary session. So this is a full Board of Governors meeting. We will adjourn and have a plenary session where we're going to vote on bylaws, and then we will go back into the BOG meeting. So everyone who is registered, or everyone who's logged in Zoom can vote. That's an active member of the State Bar of Georgia. And to be counted here and to be able to vote, you've got to be logged into Zoom. You can't just be dialing in, because there's going to be a poll feature to vote. All active bar members are allowed to vote on the bylaw change in the plenary session, and all other polls may only be voted on by Board of Governors members. And reminder, if you're using a call-in number and not your computer or smart device, you will not be able to vote. And your attendance will be captured automatically by a report, and please enter your full name. I don't want to steal Ivy's thunder, as I'm sure he will remind all of that in a minute. So with that, that's our friendly reminders for Zoom. And now I would invite Judge Krause of Fulton County Superior Court to lead us in the pledge.
Good morning, everyone. So even though we're all sitting at our computers, we're probably not going to stand, but I wanted to invite everyone to put their hands over their hearts, and we are going to recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Krause. Now I'd like to invite Karam Beg, who will lead us in the invocation.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I want to thank her as well as this board for this opportunity to lead in this invocation. There is a tradition in the Islamic religion that says that if God wants to bless any of his creation, he blesses him or her with wisdom. And I thought it'd be appropriate for our invocation today to invoke wisdom. This governing body is tasked with leading one of the most amazing organizations in the country, one of the best bar organizations by any objective metric that you want to use. And the work this body does is incredibly important. And for that reason, we ask that for the work you do today, the work you do for the remainder of this year, and the work you all do in the rest of your careers and professions is all governed by wisdom. It's blessed with wisdom, and that you have the wisdom to do what may not be popular, what may not always feel as if you're doing what the crowd wants, but you're doing what is wise with a vision that is understated by the need for justice, the need for everyone to have a voice. So we ask again, in the name of all that we believe, that this body, that this board, that this work be blessed with wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you, Karam. Really appreciate that. Now, sorry, getting different pop-ups on the screen. We had intended, when we thought we were going to have this meeting in person, we were going to have the governor come and speak to us at our Friday night dinner. But of course, now we are all enjoying this meeting from the comforts of our home or our offices. but the governor is still bringing us remarks. And so with that, Governor Brian Kemp will be offering us some greetings and remarks. I think it's muted. One second as we.
Yeah, let me try that again.
All right, thank you.
Can we come back to it?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. All right.
We'll keep moving.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you, Michael. You gotta love technology, everybody. So with that, we're going to recognize our other special guests that we have, because we have lots of special guests here today. First, from the Supreme Court, we've got Chief Justice David Namias, Presiding Justice Michael Boggs, Justice Nels Peterson, Justice Carla Wong McMillan, and Justice Sean Ellen LaGrua. From the Court of Appeals, we have Presiding Judge Sarah Doyle. Among our illustrious past presidents, we have Bill Barwick, Hal Daniel, Judge Ken Hodges, Dawn Jones, Linda Klein, Pat O'Connor, John Salmon, Ken Shigley, and Daryl Sutton. And there may very well be some other special guests that we have in attendance, but those were the ones that were at least captured by our registration. I wanted to say too, first, well, thank you for all of those special guests who are able to attend and who have shown your support for the state bar. We can't do this without you, and we always appreciate the partnership. Also today, we are going to recognize, today is actually, this mid-year meeting is the first session for the Young Lawyers Division Leadership Academy, the 2022 Leadership Academy. And so we wanted to recognize those individuals who are also in the Leadership Academy. We've got their names on the screen. And I just want to take a moment for everyone to have a chance to read those names. It's a great program. I hope that you all can reach out to these young lawyers if you know them in your community. I hope you can reach out to them and welcome them. They will be on this Leadership Academy journey for the rest of this bar year. And I hope that you all will have, who know of other younger lawyers, will consider nominating them or inviting them to apply for the next year's Leadership Academy. It's a great program. And as a matter of just a little note of personal privilege, actually Judge Krause, Karam Beg, and I all were in the same Leadership Academy class. And so it's very full circle for me to have that here today. And it shows that I think the program does work and does continue to grow leaders. I don't want to say future leaders, because there are already leaders for taking this step and being involved. So with that, please try to know those names. And if they're from your community, reach out to them. All right, with that, then I am going to shift to Ivy Cadle to talk about the roll.
Good morning, everyone. As the roll's pretty easy today, thankfully, as long as you are on Zoom, Zoom automatically has captured your attendance here today. So we're good to go. If you are not on Zoom, this is of critical importance. I need you to email me. You can Google me or whatever. Send me a message, text me, whatever, however you want to find me, and let me know that you're here so that we can adequately record your attendance. I also encourage everyone on the Board of Governors to check the Board of Governors record of attendance and make sure that it accurately reflects your attendance. We don't typically have a consolidated process like we're enjoying today. We pass around multiple roll sheets, etc. So it is a human process to get the roll correct. And so I encourage you to check it, make sure it's accurate. And if you notice that it's not accurate, let me know. So my cell phone is already dinging with text. So y'all are doing a great job. And that's the roll call for today. Thanks.
Nice work, Ivy. Thank you. Okay, moving on. The future meeting schedule is in the board book on pages 14 to 15, and I encourage you all to study that. And I just want to take a moment too to just recognize and congratulate Gaiki Kasamba on her promotion to our meetings director. As many of you know, Michelle Garner has left us for greener pastures, and we are so excited though and thrilled to have Gaiki here, and totally threw her off guard. She's hiding behind in Michael Nixon's office doing the work of the bar. So we welcome her if you have any questions. She's been with the bar for a long time and she is a great asset, and we are happy to have her. With that, I am now going to just stay on the call. Don't get cute. I'm going to adjourn the Board of Governors meeting and convene the plenary session, which is open for all active bar members. At this point, so moving on to item 2 on the agenda, the mid-year members meeting action items. We've got a proposed bylaw change that you can find on pages 16 to 17 of your book. And with that, Bill Neesmith will present on it.
Okay, thank you very much. If you will go to page 16, 17 of your board book. On page 16, you will see the proposed changes in a red line version. There, some of them are just cleanup, like for instance, the original bylaw had younger lawyer section instead of the young lawyer division. We made that change and added certain things like in good standing and just things for clarity. But the one change that we put in there is that honorary members may nominate or second a member of the bar to serve as an officer. And the reason for this is to make this consistent with Robert's Rules of Order. If you want to know about honorary members, it's section 4742 in Robert's Rules. All this does is just brings it up to the standard with Robert's Rules, and you're ready for a motion and a vote, Madam President. Unless there are questions.
All right. Do I have any motions?
Move that we accept it.
All right, I'll give Ivy the motion and Dawn the second. Thank you. Any discussion? I'm looking everywhere where I think there could be, and seeing none. Yeah, and that's a reminder from Michael. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand and you can be promoted. All right, seeing none, then we are ready for the poll. And again, this will pop up on a poll and all active members can vote. And it's not just limited Board of Governors. For
Looks like
my,
Can't
yeah, for
vote.
my hosts and panelists, I'm seeing that too. So if, just so you all know, Damon behind the scenes, it won't allow hosts and panelists to vote. I'm going to tell my hosts and panelists that if you object, you can text me and we'll record it. How about that? All right. We will close the poll. It's closed. All right. Motion passes. Thank you.
Elizabeth, I think you have a question. I did not recognize when it came in from Solicitor Grice.
Okay. Where do I look for the question?
There was a hand raised. I'm sorry. I'll ask Michael to promote her.
He's headed back over that way. He was checking with me on something.
Okay.
She's coming.
I see her.
Hey, sorry, no, actually, I'm technologically challenged. I did not see the poll. Where am I supposed to be looking for it? As a
It
non,
should pop up on your screen. It depends on what kind of device you're using, but I see also that Sherry Boston said the poll did not open for her either.
yeah. So that's all. I have nothing of intelligence to add.
No, it's good to know. Let's do this then, because it seems like we're having a few glitches. Do we want to just take a moment, Damon, and regroup on this? And at that point, I can have someone on this panel regale us with some amazing story, or we can just take a beat.
Sure. So I understand that the governor's remarks are ready. So there's 2 minutes that we could play there, and then I'll double check with everybody on this back end related to the poll, and maybe we can relaunch. Yes.
Okay, okay. So now I bring you the governor of the state of Georgia. We hope.
This is Governor Brian Kemp. I'm sorry we could not be together in person, but it's an honor to address you for your mid-year meeting. I want to thank you for continuing to uphold the rule of law during such challenging times. I was glad to help support the judiciary's recovery by providing aid for courts to resume jury trials and other in-person proceedings. Together, I'm confident we will continue to increase public safety and strengthen our communities. I also want to thank you for working with my administration to crack down on violent offenders like human traffickers and the gangs that facilitate these crimes and many others, but also to support crime victims. Over the last several years, I've had the opportunity to appoint skilled and qualified individuals to the state and superior courts, as well as the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court. I'm proud of those now assuming these roles and fairly applying the law as written. To all the practicing attorneys and judges in this group, thank you for what you do to promote justice in our state. Your hard work helps keep Georgia the best place to live, work, and raise a family. I look forward to seeing you again in person very soon.
Excellent. And we appreciate the governor taking the time to make that video for us. With that, I have seen a couple comments in the chat. Could be the polls are hidden behind different screens or things like that. Damon, any
Yeah,
update?
we weren't seeing any technological issues on that. I think some of the troubleshooting that was offered is right. The panelist was a check box. Maybe we relaunch the poll just to be sure if
Okay.
we're capable of doing that.
Excellent. So we've had a motion and a second and no discussion, and we are going to relaunch the poll on the, yes, ma'am, Dawn.
I just saw a question pop up about Android. I didn't read the whole thing, but just to be sure everyone has their questions answered about their various devices, you might want to repeat one more time. But I thought I saw a chat comment pop up about Androids. That's all. Thank you, Madam President.
Yeah. So someone noted in the chat that if you're on an Android but it's a notification that you get in the bottom right corner of your device. And with that, we're going to relaunch this poll on this thankfully non-controversial topic.
Poll should be up.
And the poll is up, and we are going to give some folks a few seconds to locate it wherever it might lie on their device.
And as a panelist, I could vote.
Yes. We're going to leave this one up a little bit longer, and then we leave the other ones up just to give everybody a moment. All right. Solicitor Geist worked. DA Boston saw it. I'm still going to give it a few more seconds because I want everyone to have that moment, Android or not. All right. We're going to close the poll in 5 seconds, however long that gets counted out. I think we can close the poll now. Lovely. Ratio holds true. It still passes. Thank you, everybody. And thanks for working through that with us. All right. With that, now hang on to the call. The plenary session is now concluded. So I'm adjourning that and I'm reconvening now the Board of Governors meeting. So from this point forward, only Board of Governors members can vote on the items that are presented. And so now we've got the exciting minutes of the 289th meeting of the Board of Governors. Mr. Cadle.
Again, I hope this will be the last time that I get to speak to you today. I'm here to present the minutes from our previous meeting and would like to know if anyone has any corrections to the minutes.
Make sure you raise your hand so that you can be recognized.
I can't call on you. So.
That's true. Someone will have to tell us.
No questions.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I got a motion. I got a second from Dawn. Perfect. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, hearing about none. Can we launch the poll then for the minutes? And again, this is just for Board of Governors members. Can y'all see how many people have voted? Can we do what we did at the fall where you're starting to see critical mass around whatever number you think?
We're not using that program, so
That's right.
I'm so
All right,
sorry.
we're gonna leave the poll open for, we're gonna close it in 5 more seconds. 5, 4. You get it, it's closed. Perfect. Motion passes. Minutes are approved. Good job, Ivy, and those who support him very seriously at the State Bar of Georgia. All right, next up on the agenda, we're moving on to nominations for the ABA delegates. For everyone's edification, the State Bar of Georgia has 7 seats in the ABA House of Delegates based on the size of our bar and the number of ABA members that we have. Article 10 of the bylaws provides that we elect ABA delegates the same way we elect the secretary of the bar. So we put a notice of the expiring terms in the bar journal as we do for bar officer positions, and we make nominations at this meeting. 3 posts are up for re-election this year. Bob Rothman assumed the position of state delegate in August. I'm going to call on him to introduce himself, give us a brief update on the ABA, and to give us the names of the nominees for the 3 ABA delegate seats that expire this summer. And before though he speaks, let me be clear. So this is very similar to how we do our officer nominating. We will hear about the 3 people that are interested in applying or interested in being an ABA delegate. We will have a motion and a nomination and a second. There is no vote on this item at this meeting. That's voted on in our ballot when we do our normal election. And just like with our officer positions, nominations are open for 10 days after this. So any member who is not identified today that would like to have their names considered can submit a petition up to 10 days after this meeting. So with that, Bob, welcome to the meeting. Thank you for taking the time to join us, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much, President Fite. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to speak with all of you. It's been my privilege to be a member of the State Bar for, as of this coming week, for 39 years. I've had the honor of serving for the last 10 years as a member of your delegation to the ABA House of Delegates, and as of this past August, became the state delegate, replacing the irreplaceable Paula Frederick, which is a challenging job in and of itself. First, very briefly, with respect to the ABA, Paula previously has kept you all informed about Practice Forward, the program through which the ABA has worked to help lawyers in all practice settings deal with the challenges presented by the pandemic. The most recent development that I want to make you aware of is the release of a survey by the ABA through which it gathered, assessed, and published information about the many ways that lawyers have found to deal with the challenges of the pandemic. In all practice settings in all parts of the country, more than 4,200 lawyers participated in that survey. And for those of you who are interested, it's available on the ABA homepage. Just click on Practice Forward and it will take you to that survey where you can see the results for yourself and share it as you deem appropriate with members of the board. Moving on to the nominations of delegates to the ABA House, as President Veit said, there are 3 openings. The first is post 1, which is the post that I held until I became the state delegate. For that position, I'd like to nominate Judge Al Wong of the DeKalb County State Court. Judge Wong has been active with the ABA Judicial Division and the Diversity Center of the ABA for many years. Post 2 is the post currently held by C. Alicia Frazier of Pooler. She is willing to continue to serve, and we ask that she be renominated for that position. Post 6 is the seat currently held by Gerald Edenfield of Statesboro. Gerald is stepping down, but he has asked that you nominate his daughter, Sherry Edenfield, for that position. And with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for your service to the state through the ABA for us. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Now, with those nominations, I do need an actual nomination and second from the Board of Governors.
So moved and nominated.
All right, Ivy.
Second the nomination.
All right, thank you, Ivy and Tony. Again, so this is just like the officers, it's just a nomination and a second. There's no vote to be had here now. And then again, it's technically still open for another 10 days after this meeting if anyone else would like to submit their names, and then you have the option to vote on these individuals when our ballots come out later this year. So thank you, and thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Excellent. Now, moving on to everyone's favorite part of the mid-year meeting, we've got officer nominations. With that, again, we're just looking for motions, and second, we will start with the position of the office of secretary. Nominations are limited to 5 minutes for the nomination, and a second is limited to 2. Strongly encourage everyone to consider those numbers and ratchet them down as you see fit for the good of the order. With that, I see Andy Davis has been promoted on the screen, and he will be making a nomination. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, justices of the Georgia Supreme Court, judges of the Court of Appeals, and members of the judiciary, it is my honor and pleasure to place in nomination for Secretary of the State Bar of Georgia, Christopher P. Twyman. Chris is a native of Rome. He's been on the Board of Governors since 2017. Chris currently serves as a managing partner for Cox, Byington, and Twyman, a law firm located here in Rome. He graduated from Georgetown University. He's a Hoya. You know, a Hoya is really a bulldog, and the mascot of the Hoyas is Jack the Bulldog. Well, Chris then continued his education at the University of Georgia, the real Bulldogs School of Law. Chris, while he's not in Indianapolis, he is in Rome, plans to be supporting the Dogs this Monday night for their hope of a national championship since 1980. Chris is one of those people that whenever you want something done, you call on him. Throughout Rome, throughout our community, Northwest Georgia, and throughout the state bar, Chris has been called on many times. He's one of those people that it's the old adage, you call on somebody who's busy, somebody who's active if you want to get the job done. Chris was admitted to the bar in 1999. His practice includes commercial general business litigation, real estate, banking law school, and criminal defense. Chris represents the City of Rome schools. Chris has been featured with many of his cases on Court TV, NBC Dateline, Discovery ID, and of course, the Rome News. Chris, as you may recall, has served as chair of the Professional Liability Insurance Study Committee, and I'll let someone else talk about that in a little while. Also in 2021, Chris was named to the National Conference of Bar Examiners Character and Fitness Investigations Committee. Chris is a member of the Georgia Board of Court Reporting of the Judicial Council for Georgia. But most importantly, what about Chris in Rome and what has he done for the state? Recently, he completed a tour of Leadership Georgia, where he and his wife Tasha served as program chairs for last year's Leadership Georgia class. Chris has been an adjunct professor at Berry College. He's active in the community, as I said. He also serves as deacon at Lovejoy Baptist Church. And he's been a member of Leadership Rome, Leadership Georgia. Chris is a super lawyer. And if you've been in trial with him, you know how well he handles himself before a jury and before all judges. Chris is truly a leader. And as I said, his firm practices in those areas, including criminal defense. Chris has left railroad mergers, one of the areas of law just for our law firm to handle here in Rome. So we handle those. We also try to work with Chris in cryptocurrency, NFTs, and kryptonite, because as a super lawyer, Chris is truly a Superman. He's a Superman because he's married to Tasha, and they have two lovely children, Lauren Kristen, that's 16, and Miles Christopher, who's 13. Tasha and Chris enjoy good friends, good food, and great wine. It's truly my honor and pleasure to nominate Chris to serve as Secretary for the State Bar of Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. And I see Chris is on the screen, and then I see a John Pennell sporting his Bulldogs right now. So I imagine he's doing a second.
I am, and thank you, President. I would like to second the nomination of Andy Davis for Chris Twyman as Secretary of the State Bar of Georgia. I've known Chris for probably 8 or 9 years and have been very enjoyed knowing him, not only through his bar leadership, but I've also had the pleasure to work with him professionally as when he's he represents Rome City Schools, and I've had the opportunity to work with him with the school system in Rome. Chris would be an excellent secretary for the State Bar of Georgia. He's been very involved with the bar for the last 5 or 6 years. He has chaired the Professional Liability Insurance Committee, which, as y'all know, was a big lift over the last couple of years. In his travels throughout the state, he handled a lot of work for that Liability Insurance Committee. He's also been a member of the Unified Bar Committee. He's also served as Vice Chairman of the Office of the Bar Admissions Board to determine bar fitness. And he's been a part of the Bar Exam Task Force Committee. Chris will be an excellent Secretary of the State Bar of Georgia, and I look forward to him serving in an officer role. And again, I stand to second his nomination to serve as our Secretary of the State Bar of Georgia. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any other nominations for the office of Secretary at this time?
Move to close the nominations.
It's not technically proper, but
Oh, come on now.
I'm giving everybody a moment. All right, Damon or Michael, anybody else raise their hand? Okay, great. Now I see that we'll move on to the office of Treasurer, and I see Katie Powers ready to show us a terrible picture of Ivy.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam President. It is my honor to nominate my fellow Mercer Law classmate and friend, Mr. Ivy Cadle, for the office of Treasurer of the State Bar of Georgia. As many of you know, Ivy has a lengthy bar service, and thankfully he took time to record that and send that to Judge Whitaker and I, because I'm choosing to use none of it in this nomination speech, but certainly wanted to recognize his hard efforts and work in that area. Ivy's really traits come through his everyday life that make him a great candidate for office of treasurer. As we all know, he's very effective at documentation. Thankfully, through social media, we know exactly what he and Leslie ate for every day of the pandemic, how it was purchased, prepared, and how he reported that it was tasted. I see many of you, like myself, have said, well, we're just waiting for our invite to come down. Remarkably, after 15 years, mine occurred in October of this year, probably because he was getting ready to ask me to do this nomination speech. But I can report that his documentation is accurate and it is in fact tasty. We also know that one of the criteria for a good treasurer is to understand how to be frugal. And Mr. Cadle understands when things are really necessary. One thing he doesn't really believe is necessary is the use of shoes. Most of the time in any situation, no matter where we might be, whether it's in the car, in his airplane, or just really in his house or in a public space. But when he does feel that shoes are necessary, he's very frugal. As you can tell, he is an avid Chaco wearer, has worn the same pair perhaps for the past 15 years that we've known each other. I'm unable to report as to whether or not they are the same. We also know that he can provide us with a 1,000-foot view. I know he doesn't really talk about it. So for those of you who do not know, Mr. Cadle's an avid flyer. So I believe that those types of things that he uses, he can certainly use to provide for the bar service as well. We know that he can communicate, whether that's from sending text that were post 11 p.m. last night to make sure that we were resting up for an epic nomination speech that led me to chucking the rest of his bar service when I awoke to that text message after I'd gone to bed, or whether it's sending music videos of his favorite music, which is not just a link, it's videoed like a bootlegger in the back of a movie theater from his couch to make sure that he knows that we are thinking of him. He's also can alert us to any problem. And certainly we know that we've managed to go through all of this bar service without any problems, but we know that that famous laugh that will let you know wherever Ivy is in a room would certainly alert us to any issue or any problem. But with that being said, I think that Mr. Cadle's service to our bar, whether through the YLD or through his current state bar service, certainly makes him a good candidate for treasurer. Hopefully one of you can get in line for, if he chooses to be nominated next year, maybe you two can eat at Casa de Cadle. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. I love the roast portion of these meetings. Judge Whitaker, I see you on the screen. You're on mute still.
I'm muted. Good morning, everybody. We should know after 2 years to unmute. I am here to second the nomination of Ivy Cadle to be our next State Bar Treasurer. You can already tell from his performance so far today that he has done an impeccable job as secretary. He's had to work really hard since most of our meetings have been on Zoom, and that basically does his job for him. But he did actually want to remind y'all again that you can Google him at any time if you would like to. I also actually do want to commend Ivy himself, because as secretary, he actually has done a big effort to make sure that we as Board of Governors members have got all of the materials for whatever we might be voting on well in advance so that we can read through it and make intelligent decisions when we're voting. And actually, I think that that has been so much the fact sometimes with his plethora of materials that a well-meaning member of the Board of Governors might have thought, Client Security Fund, excuse me, that he was inviting a friendly amendment to one of the proposals, but I digress. Katie mentioned Ivy's laugh, and anybody who has heard his laugh knows that you can hear his laugh across a banquet hall. I think that in addition to that being an indication that he can alert us of any issues, it's also an indication of his forthrightness, because nobody with a laugh that loud is really looking to hide much of anything. Ivy's also not easily thrown by unexpected challenges. I'd say that within days of March 13th, 2020, Ivy had himself an industrial-sized halo light, a boom mic, and a professional grade webcam in order to run his client meetings and his at-home depots with panache. And not only was he doing that, but he was an overnight TikTok phenom, showing us everything from how to set up our own home studios to how to dig a backyard barbecue pit at the wall of Cadle and roast a whole hog while he's doing it. So he is prepared for anything, prepared for everything. And one thing that I did find in his 5-page resume that he sent us all to use was that he actually is very prepared because he was an Eagle Scout. And finally, don't let the private plane part of his personality fool you. Ivy counterbalances that with a practical side. You know, I think some people say that a good measure of a man is the car that he drives, and Ivy unabashedly drives a Subaru. All kidding aside, though, Ivy's service to the bar has been phenomenal, and I am happy to second his nomination as our next State Bar Treasurer.
Thank you, Judge Whitaker. With that, are there any other nominations for the office of treasurer? Any hands raised? Okay, then moving on to the office of president-elect. I think Tony is going to nominate himself, right? Because y'all get confused a lot. I see Dax Lopez. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam President, and Happy New Year to all. As President Fight mentioned, I am often known as Tony 2.0, and I zoom in today to nominate my mentor, my friend, and now my law partner to be the president-elect of the State Bar of Georgia. I know many of you have texted me and have asked me what kind of show I intended to put on today, a rap or a song or something to that effect. And I just want to inform all of you that I only do live shows. I don't do television. And so I didn't have time to prepare something. I did toy with the idea of doing a parody of Despacito. It would have been something like, Tonycito, he will lead the bar tranquilito and balance our budget calladito. But the rest of the song was in Spanish, and I think y'all probably wouldn't have enjoyed it. I do zoom in today because Tony is a trailblazer. All of you know that. He is not a stranger to being a trailblazer, and he's not a stranger to being the first. He has often blazed a trail where no trail existed. All of you know he was the first Hispanic judge in the history of Georgia, an incredible undertaking. And today is a similarly historic occasion, as hopefully he'll soon be the first Hispanic president-elect in the over 50-year history of the State Bar of Georgia. Think about that. In over 50 years, Tony will be the first. And I do want to take a moment of personal privilege because this has been a historic week all around. Just yesterday, Governor Kemp announced that he is appointing Ana Maria Martinez, a former member of this Board of Governors, to be the first Hispanic woman to ever serve on a court of record in Georgia. Ana Maria and I, and many others, stand on the Tony shoulders. Tony has blazed this trail for us and has brought us along with him. And that's part of why he's so special. He is always looking to help others advance in their careers, help advance to the bench, help advance in board and bar membership and leadership. He has boundless optimism, as I've learned as his law partner. He is very optimistic about everything. Every one of our cases is going to end extremely well in his eyes, if you ask him. And it's great to have a law partner who sees the world that way. He's never met a stranger. Tony is friends with everyone. And that's, again, one of the things I love about him. Every time we start a case together and we have opposing counsel, first thing he does is he gets on the phone and invites that opposing counsel to lunch. I think that's a trait that many more litigators ought to have, because when you share bread with somebody, it makes for a more meaningful and more collegial experience in litigation, which can often be so adversarial. He also has just generosity of spirit that is unmatched. He is generous with his time, he's generous with his resources, he's generous with his treasure. there's just not a person in the state that, if you needed Tony, he would pick up the phone and do anything you needed him to do. He is just that kind of person. He will meet the moment of being the leader of this organization, and he would lead this bar capably with honor and distinction. And I know he will continue to make us all proud. So again, I'm happy to nominate my good friend and mentor, Tony Del Campo, to be the first Hispanic president-elect of this organization, a truly historic occasion. And I hope that each of you will support his candidacy. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. And I see Joyce Just Lewis on the screen as well to second.
Good morning. It is my honor to second the nomination of the Honorable J. Antonio Del Campo to become president-elect of the State Bar of Georgia. Like many of you, I knew Tony before I joined the board, but I feel I've really gotten to know him at bar events, watching him in action as he has led the bar as secretary and in his current role as treasurer, and watching him and his bride dominate the dance floor when we all take some well-deserved time to celebrate and fellowship. There's been at least one occasion in the last 6 months where I've attended back-to-back bar committee Zoom meetings on a single day. And Tony, who I am very proud to claim is a fellow Georgia State law alum, go Panthers, he has been the common denominator. He's been there, prepared and ready to contribute, proud and happy to be there, even in the 4th consecutive hour of meetings. As we all know, Tony has a thriving mediation and arbitration practice, and he's a well-respected and busy trial attorney. So some may ask, why would he regularly and cheerfully give up valuable billable hours to bar service? Why would he give up time that could be spent with his family and friends or working on his dance moves? The answer is that he cares. He is committed to this bar and to our legal community and to making them a better place for us and for the people of Georgia whom we serve. I suspect the same motivation is what led him to the Superior Court bench in 2002, and that it is what now prompts him to want to lead the entire bar. I ask that you join me in supporting Tony Del Campo for election as the 61st president of the State Bar of Georgia.
Thank you. Just gonna say, any other hands raised? I don't think there will be. Okay, moving on then. So congratulations to those that have been nominated. I'm excited about this group of individuals and look forward to seeing your name on the ballot this spring. All right, moving on now to legislation. We are going to have an update on germaneness. Paula Frederick, our general counsel, is going to speak to us about that. And I just want to say before she starts to speak, I think it's really important that all the current Board of Governors members, really try to dial into this one and listen. I know we all think we have a good handle on what germaneness is because we've been living in the space for a long time. But these are just issues that we need to really focus on, and I think for our bar going forward. So with that, that's why I asked Paula to speak to us today about it.
Thanks so much, Madam President. If you all will pull up the PowerPoint, I actually did a few PowerPoint slides that probably don't add a whole lot, but give you something to look at while I talk. And Michael, if you just go on to the second slide already. Elizabeth points out that we have been having this conversation for a while, and I think we all believe that we understand what Keller is about. But if you take a minute to think about it, we've been talking about Keller since 1990. And we really haven't changed the way that we talk about it in all of that time, and yet things have changed. So there have been significant decisions out of courts that are affecting what germaneness is and really adding to the body of law around what that word means in the context of a mandatory bar association. So the leadership of your bar decided that we need to take another look at Keller and germaneness and the way that we approach it there at the State Bar of Georgia. Michael, I think you've got me on automatic. You need to go back to that second slide if you can. Thank you. That's the one. So let me just take a moment and talk about remind you what Keller is about. You will hopefully remember that it started with a group of California lawyers who believed that the fact that the State Bar of California was spending their dues money to lobby for issues that they disagreed with violated their First Amendment rights. And so they sued the bar, saying that you don't get to force me to be a member of this organization in order to practice law in the state, and then use my money to do things that I disagree with. One of the initial things that the court looked at in determining the Keller case was whether a bar organization, a mandatory bar organization like the one we have in Georgia, is a governmental entity or whether it's more like a union. A governmental entity can do things that its members disagree with, and that's why we all have to pay taxes, whether we want to or not, for instance. Unions are different, and a labor union can only spend member dues on activity that's related to the purposes that the cases say compel the mandatory membership. And for unions, that's one set of things, but for lawyers, it's another. And if you go to the next, oh, well, this is the slide that talks about the purposes. I'm sorry. The purposes of the mandatory bar, the Supreme Court ended up saying, are to regulate the profession, to do things like ensure that we are competent, to ensure that we are ethical, and that we maintain both competency and ethicalness, or to improve the quality of legal services available to the people in the state. So the court found we're more like a labor union than a governmental entity. We've got these reasons that the bar exists, and those are the only reasons for which we can spend the dues money that we force our members to pay. Michael, if you go to the next slide, the court in Keller did a little bit of talking about the things that you can't pay for with mandatory bar dues. And so it said, prohibited activity includes funding things that fall outside of the scope and purpose of the bar, legislative and lobbying activities that are political or ideological in nature are not germane. The problem is that they sort of bookended that conversation in Keller with two really extreme examples of things. This clearly is okay and this clearly is not okay. And they are so far beyond anything that we in Georgia would do that frankly, the examples in Keller aren't particularly helpful. But in 1990, after the case came out, and under the leadership of my predecessor, Bill Smith, we kind of took a belt and suspenders approach to being sure that we complied with what the Supreme Court had said in the case. We stopped funding any legislative activity from mandatory dues. And we only use that voluntary dues checkoff money for our legislative program. We only engage in lobbying activity that is germane to the scope and purposes as outlined in Keller. And that's why before we take a vote on any legislative proposal, we first do the Keller vote before we decide whether we want to support or oppose whatever it is. And so we don't even talk about things that aren't germane to that scope and purpose. And the other thing that I think many people aren't aware of is that we also have an opt-out procedure for any expenditure that any member is opposed to. So that if you don't like the position that we've taken on a particular issue, you can ask for the proportionate amount of your dues money that goes towards that to have a refund. And that procedure is the State Board Policy, Standing Board Policy 200. It exists to sort of make sure that you don't have to fund anything that you violently disagree with. So if you go to the next slide, the current litigation is forcing us to be less casual, I guess, about the approach that we have taken on Keller. I think we've all, I can sort of push a button in the back of my brain and I can start talking about Keller and what the test is. But these new cases really are narrowing the scope and better defining what germaneness really means. There are recent lawsuits in Louisiana, Michigan, North Carolina, Oregon, Texas, Wisconsin, challenging the mandatory bar. And so what we've got is decisions out of federal circuit courts of appeal that help us figure out in the year 2022 what this word means and what it is that we can do. The current litigation, though, is also raising new challenges to mandatory or unified bars. So in addition to just how you spend my money, The newer claims are talking about how you use the name of the organization. If you're going to force me to be a member of the State Bar of Georgia, and then you're going to take action on a piece of litigation or legislation in the name of the State Bar of Georgia, you have violated my right to freedom of association. And so those are the new claims. Frankly, they've got some traction, although we haven't had any final decision yet from even, I think, the federal appellate level courts. But ultimately, this issue is going to get up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And, you know, one of the things that we're trying to do sort of in anticipation of that is to talk about the scope and purposes of the State Bar of Georgia. So, Michael, if you go to the next slide, that one, you know, we've always talked about this in terms of what the U.S. Supreme Court said in Keller. But we in Georgia have outlined the purposes of our own state bar. And in 1964, as part of creating the bar, we sort of enunciated these three purposes: fostering the principles of duty and service, improving the administration of justice, and advancing the science of law as the three purposes of the State Bar of Georgia. So as we move forward with talking about germaneness, we're going to be guided by those cases. We're going to be guided by these purposes of the State Bar of Georgia. We're also, I guess in ways both good and bad, gonna probably have to change the way that we do things. And the Texas case that I talked about a minute ago, as I told you that there are all these cases that have come out recently about that help us figure out what's germane and what's not. The Texas case in particular talks a lot about access to justice. And I think we in Georgia over the last 30 years have assumed that if something is increasing access to justice, it must be germane. This Texas case takes a swipe at that and says that germaneness is not synonymous with access to justice, basically, that some of the activities of the access to justice groups, particularly there in Texas, which is where this case came from, some of their activity includes lobbying for changes to Texas substantive law designed to benefit low-income Texans. They find that that's not germane, that if you're increasing accessibility of legal services for all people, that is, but to the extent that you're taking substantive positions that would benefit one particular group over another, they say no, that you can't spend mandatory pardons on that. That strangely, to me, I mean, this court sounds like it's a very conservative court. They found the diversity activities of the Texas bar were germane, that the bar has an interest in ensuring that its membership is diverse. They found that funding activities for legal services were germane. So, you know, we're being guided by the things that we're seeing out of these other courts as we figure out exactly how to handle decisions that we make about what we can do with your bar dues or even without your bar dues, what we can do in the name of the State Bar of Georgia. Michael, if you go to that last slide, what we want to do, in addition to monitoring the litigation, which of course my office does and the bar's leadership also does, and we have updates at executive committee meetings as these cases progress about what has happened with them and what they might mean for us. Elizabeth and the leadership believe that it would be good to have continued discussion at this level. You all are the ones who are the decision makers on behalf of the bar. You set the policy, you make decisions about what it is that we're going to support or what we're not going to support. And we need to be sure that as things change, you all are aware of the changes and that we adapt to the changes. I think we all want to do what we can do to preserve the organization and don't need to sort of be making reckless decisions about what to do in the name of the State Bar of Georgia. In fact, one of the things that my office has agreed to do going forward, and we didn't do it for this meeting, but one of the things that we have agreed to do going forward is to give the membership of the Advisory Committee on Legislation an opinion about germaneness of the issues that come before the ACL. They can take it, they can leave it, they can ignore it, whatever, but at least to have a more robust conversation about what's germane and what isn't in light of the things that have happened in the 30 years since the Keller decision first came down. So I wanted to have this conversation just to warn you that it's an ongoing conversation. And this may not be the last that you hear of Keller, but I think the Keller speech is going to change a little bit. And I really do invite your thoughtful consideration of germaneness as we go about considering legislation for this coming bar year. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. If there are any questions for Paula now, certainly we're happy to take them. And along the lines of some of the suggestions or changes that we're going to look forward to, for instance, when we do our Keller vote on these legislative items today, for example, we have lengthened, we've expanded on the actual verbiage in the poll. We're going to talk about it, but then that way you can also see it. We're not just going to say germane, we're going to say germane, i.e., and the two purposes of the bar spelled out in Keller. So that's just the place where you're going to see it change a little bit, just to help bring about discussion and to help remind us where it all comes from. So again, good reminder from Michael, if you'd like to speak now or have any questions for Paula, please raise your hand. I will go in and say that the ACL's minutes are in the board book on pages 22 to 27 for your review. And if there are no questions at this point, we do have the chair of ACL, Kyle Williams, on the screen now. And I believe we'll get Christine up here too at some point. And he is going to present the legislative proposals. This will be an action item. These will be action items for each item that's here. We've got 4. Each one will have the Keller vote and then the vote on whether or not we approve to move forward with it. And we will just take them one at a time. And with that, Kyle, I turn it over to you, sir.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Happy New Year. Good to see everybody. Thank you for allowing me to be with you. As our president mentioned, the State Bar's Advisory Committee on Legislation had its second meeting of the year on November 30th. This was a hybrid meeting. Some of us were at the Bar Center, some of us were in Zoom. The minutes are found on page 22. This was, as anticipated and as usual, a more robust meeting in preparation for the legislative session that starts and kicks off on Monday. During the meeting, the committee approved 2 requests to support continued state funding for legal grants, along with a proposal from the Bench and Bar Committee and a proposal from the Children, Families, and the Courts Committee. Understanding Board Policy 100, the board will need to vote on each of these 4 proposals separately today before the bar can officially support each one. The first proposal before you is a request from the Access to Justice Committee. They are asking the board to support the Judicial Council's fiscal year 2023 budget request for $750,000 to fund civil legal services grants for kinship care families. The materials supporting this proposal are found on page 28. Beginning on page 28 in your board book, a little background on this request. The board has voted to support this proposal for the last 3 years. The legislature appropriated $475,326 for these grants in fiscal year 2022. This was an increase from the $225,000 appropriated for fiscal year 2021 when funds were cut due to the pandemic. The Access to Justice Committee is asking the legislature to appropriate $750,000 in the upcoming 2023 budget. The grants are administered every year by the Administrative Office of the Courts to provide pro bono legal services to family members of displaced children who often need help with powers of attorneys, custody arrangements, and special education accommodations to care for these children. Our committee, ACL, unanimously voted in favor of this proposal on November 30th. I'm happy to support and answer any questions. And with that, I turn it to you, Madam President, and submit this proposal for the board consideration.
All right, at this time, unless there are any initial questions, the first vote that we would need to conduct is a Keller vote. So with that, do I have a motion that the proposal is germane to the scope and purposes of an organized bar as further elaborated on by Paula just now? I got a motion from Dawn. Do I have a second? And I can take motions from the floor too.
Second.
Sally seconded it. All right. Any discussion? Any hands raised or?
No hands, Elizabeth. I think Solicitor Grice might have raised her hand to second the motion because it's gone down, but
right.
I'll ask her to send me a chat if I'm incorrect about that.
Okay. With that, then can we launch the poll? This is the Keller vote on the kinship care grant. And just for your edification, you see, we've elaborated on the poll with the IE related to the regulation of the profession or designed to improve the quality of legal services available. We will leave this poll up for a little bit to make sure everybody's got time to do. And again, this is only Board of Governors members can vote on these items that we have left on the agenda. All right, we are going to close the poll in 5 more seconds, some amorphous time. All right. Thanks, Jennifer and Michael. All right, it passes the Keller. Next, we now have to, we're moving, I need a motion to approve the ACL legislative proposal and the support from the bar. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Elizabeth. All right, I got a first and second. Okay, with that, any discussion, any hands raised, any questions?
There is a hand raised. Michael, would you? Here we go.
There we go.
Hi, my question is simple. Is this bar dues money, or are we just supporting the legislature funding these programs? Is it being funded by state bar dues, or is it being funded by general revenues out of the state legislature? And that's probably true for all 4 of these questions.
This is not state board dues. This is through the legislative budgeting process of the General Assembly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you, sir. All right, any other questions? All right, not thinking that there are. At this point, we're going to launch the poll then to approve the support. The poll should be on your screen if you haven't seen it yet. All right, we're going to close the poll in 5 more seconds. There you go. All right, motion passes. Okay.
Thank you, Madam.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Thank you. We got more. I'm sorry, Madam President. Thank you, board. Moving on to the second proposal before you is a request from the Indigent Defense Committee. They are asking the board to support the Judicial Council's fiscal year 2023 budget request for $800,000 to fund representation and post-conviction proceedings through the Georgia Appellate Practice and Educational Resource Center. The supporting materials for this proposal are found on page 32 in your board book. A little background here, the State Bar has supported this request to the legislature for the last 20 years. The Georgia Resource Center was initially started by bar members, law schools, and other stakeholders in the state. Georgia and Alabama are presently the only 2 states that do not provide counsel in post-conviction proceedings. The vote supporting this proposal was unanimous at the November 30th ACL meeting, I'm happy to take any questions. Again, this is just a request for us to support their request to the General Assembly for additional funding for 2023 budget. I'm happy to answer questions. With that, Madam President, I submit this to the board.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Kyle initially? First, again, we've got to do our Keller vote. So is the request germane to the scope and purposes of an organized bar? I need a motion regarding Keller. Dawn first. All right. Thank you. Thanks, guys, for helping facilitate. So with that, we've got a motion and second. Any questions about Keller from before we launch the poll? Any discussion? Any hands raised?
Bert has his hand up. Bert put his hand down. That's it. No questions.
Bert was just testing the system for us. Thank you. We appreciate you and your service to the bar. All right, with that, we'll launch the poll for the Keller vote on the Georgia Resource Center funding request. All right. We can't tell, unlike our wonderful software that we had for the last meeting, we can't tell when the votes have all come in, but we're going to keep this one moving. I think we can shut the poll down.
We have 117.
Ah, right on. All right, motion passes. Now we need the vote on approving the proposal. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
There we go. I'm gonna I'll let Bert have the first on that. Dawn, thank you for the second. All right, any discussion? And this is just to about whether to approve this proposal. All right, we can launch the poll on this one then. I'll let y'all tell me then if you think there's the same number of folks have come in and voted. All right, we're getting ready to close the poll. All right, motion passes. Thank you. Next item, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Madam President. The third proposal is from the Children, Family, and the Courts Committee and can be found on page 37 of your board book. This is the Raise the Age Bill, HB 272, currently pending before the legislature. Proposal asks for the State Bar to support. HB 272, a little background. HB 272 brings most criminal charges against 17-year-olds under the jurisdiction of the juvenile court system. Presently, only Alabama, Georgia, and Wisconsin charge 17-year-olds as adults. Under this bill, any 17-year-old still charged with the 7 deadly sins would still remain in Superior Court. The Keller vote, this one was tighter. Keller vote was 21-9 in favor of the germaneness standard under that case law and the germaneness practice that we try to stand by. The motion supporting the proposal passed by a vote of 26-4. Nikki Vaughn, I understand, is here and has shepherded this legislation and this effort and is happy to answer any substantive questions that the board may have. But with that, Madam President, I'm happy to answer any questions and turn this to the board for its consideration and discussion.
All right, thank you, sir. Any initial questions? If not, the first, we've got to again do a Keller motion and then a motion to approve. So do I have a Keller motion on this particular item? Do I have any hands raised?
Patty Gorham and Donna Barwick, Patty Gorham moves.
I'll second.
All right,
Donna
so I've got a
Barwick
motion and
seconds.
a second that it's Jermaine from Patty and then Donna. Thank you for that. Any discussion from the group? Anything any hands raised, any discussion, any questions?
No hands.
Okay. All right, with that, we'll launch the poll on the Keller poll regarding the raise the age proposal. Has everyone voted, Michael and Jennifer, that you can tell? All right, we're gonna close this poll in 5 more seconds then. All right, y'all can close it. Motion passes. Okay, moving on then to whether or not to support the proposal. So Keller passed, or it passed Keller, and now we've got the next, I need a motion to approve the support of this particular proposal.
Motion to approve.
I've got a motion. I've got a second from Dawn. Any discussion? Any hands raised? Okay.
No hands.
I'm sorry, Michael?
No hands.
Okay, thank you. We can launch the poll then. Are we good? All right, we're going to close this poll in 5 seconds. Y'all can close it. All right, motion passes. Mr. Williams, to your next item.
I'm back up. The final proposal for action and consideration by the board is from the Bench and Bar Committee. The committee has asked the State Bar to support HB 409, which would establish a Judicial Legal Defense Commission. HB 409 was filed during the 2021 legislative session and establishes a Judicial Legal Defense Fund Commission. The proposed new commission would appoint legal counsel for state judges sued in their official capacity when the Attorney General's office is conflicted out of representing the judge. Under this legislation, the commission would determine whether representation is proper, and then an attorney would be appointed from a list kept by the State Bar of Georgia. More details and the supporting materials here can be found on page 56 of the board book. The Keller vote on our committee was 26-2 in favor of finding that this proposal met the germaneness standard. In Keller, the vote supporting the proposal was 27-1. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Madam President, I submit this proposal to the board for its consideration and discussion.
There is a question from Seth Kirschenbaum in the chat. Are state court judges excluded because they are not state employees? For anyone who might be.
Yes, that is correct. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I was on mute.
You're doing a great job. Any other questions initially? Okay. All right, we need a Keller vote and then a motion to approve. So do I have a motion that this is germane to the scope and purposes of practice of the bar?
So moved.
I got a
Second.
motion from Tony in a second.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Ivy. My screen is moving around. All right, I got a motion in a second. Any discussion? Any hands raised? Okay, we can launch the poll then. This is the Keller vote on the Judicial Legal Defense Fund. Does it, we have enough folks? Okay, we're gonna close this poll in 5 seconds. All right, motion passes. The Keller motion passes. Next, then we need a motion to approve the proposal. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I got a motion from
Second.
Bert. All right, I got a second from whoever unmuted fast.
That was me, Ron.
Ah, good, Ron. Thank you. Welcome. All right, I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Now, this is to whether or not we support this proposal. All right. Seeing none, we can launch the poll. All right, this poll is going to close in 5 seconds. There you go, and the motion passes. Thank you, Kyle, for everything.
Thank you, Madam President. If I can just take one brief minute, I
Yeah.
did want to mention to the board that while it's not a proposal before you today, our committee did hear a presentation on HB 411 from Rebecca Grice, Keith Gamage, and Brad Rigby. Y'all may have heard of this, which is why the committee wanted to mention this to you. HB 411 was filed last session. It's the bill that was filed to create a separate oversight committee to discipline elected DAs and solicitors. Many DAs and solicitors continue to be concerned about this bill, and the presenters to our committee expressed fear that the legislation infringes on the constitutional right of elected DAs and solicitors and duplicates attorney discipline that is already handled under our state bar. I mentioned this, it is not a proposal for action or discussion or consideration, but many of you will most likely or already have heard from our DA and solicitor friends. We anticipate that this will be a continuing conversation during the legislative session and maybe
It looks like Kyle
back
just,
for you tentatively scheduled for February 3rd. That means I'm wrapping up. So we appreciate your questions and your consideration of these proposals. And with that, I turn it back to you, Madam.
oh, thank you. And we appreciate it. You, at least on my end, it glitched out for a second, but we got everything I think that you were saying. So thank you so much for all the hard work that the ACL has done. We really appreciate your service and leading us through this this year, especially in this different format, especially having a hybrid meeting for ACL meetings. All right, moving on in the agenda, we have Christine Butcher Hayes, who has welcomed her second child. So congratulations, welcome back. We're happy to see you. You turn from one hard task to another with the session coming up.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Yeah, just jumping right in feet first. Well, good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. Like Kyle mentioned, the legislative session starts on Monday, so you can expect the 40-day session to continue probably through the end of March. This is an election year, so as many of you know, legislators can't fundraise while the session is going on. And since we are in an election year, they will want to fundraise and will likely adjourn probably by the end of March. In addition to the two proposals, or the proposals that Kyle just presented to you all and you just voted on, there are two pieces of carryover legislation that I've spoken to a little bit about over the past year that are still on the bar's legislative agenda. The first being House Bill 334. That's the remote online notary legislation. And where the bar has been monitoring that is to ensure that there are specific fraud protections that were in the American Land Title and Mortgage Bankers Association Model Act. And so those protections are currently in the present substitute of the bill, and we will continue to make sure that they are in there. The other bill is House Bill 752, which is the Advanced Psychiatric Directive Bill. That bill has been a collaboration by the medical and healthcare community, and they asked the bar, specifically the fiduciary section, to step in last year to look at some of the deeper legal issues in the bill, and the fiduciary section has been of significant help to that. And the bill has received a hearing during the special session, and we expect more discussion of it over the next 40 days. There are also two additional proposals that you all voted to support last year from the Judicial Council, the first being the Digital Court Reporting Act and the State Court Appellate Practice Act. Those two were not filed during the 2021 session, but I know the Judicial Council legislative team is looking forward to having them filed this year. As of Monday, we will start sending all relevant legislation to each section chair. So if you're a member of a section and have a specific practice area that you're interested in legislation or tracking that legislation, I would encourage you all to engage with your section leadership to check that all out. And and our sections will be helping us with different issues that pop up throughout the 40-day session like they typically do. And we will be sending out our regular bar-wide emails with relevant legislation to the practice of law. Again, this year I'll be joined at the Capitol by our legislative team, which is Rusty Sewell, Roy Robinson, and Mark Middleton. And I encourage everyone to reach out to any of us if you want to do a lobby day at the Capitol, maybe with your local bar, or if there's an issue that comes up in a piece of legislation that you want to bend our ear on, or you're interested in coming down to the Capitol and just seeing how everything works. We'd love to have you. And so thank you all for your confidence in me and our team, and we look forward to having another successful legislative session this year.
Thank you, Christine. Again, welcome back and good luck. At least the first day of the session will be pretty brief.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
All right, now moving into informational reports. Tony Del Campo is going to regale us with information about the bar's finances.
Thank you, Madam President. I am happy to report that the state of the bar finances is strong. You can look at page 68 to 81 of your board book to have more detail on all of our finances. Revenues have stayed steady. The main driver of our revenues, obviously, are bar dues, and we have stayed steady between 52 and 53,000 members of the bar. And that, as I said, drives most of our revenue. Importantly, we are on budget, which is a very good thing. There are some very small variances that you can find on page 68 and 69. The biggest of which is on a cost associated with bar security office. There were some HVAC expenses that we had to incur, but we are on budget, and that's the important part. Revenue from the building is slightly lower. We have budgeted for that, and that is because we lost a fairly large tenant in the building. But as I said, we did budget for that. So that's not a huge concern for the bar's finances. Parking revenue is slightly down. As you all know, COVID put a hurting on all live events downtown. And so whether it was Mercedes-Benz, the stadium or the Phillips Arena, because of that, the parking revenue was down. Having said that, we did budget for that, and we actually budgeted no income for the first 6 months on that, and we are slightly above that, so we should be okay. Contributions to our legislative fund and the Georgia Legal Services Program continue to be strong. So on that end, we are doing well as well. That is my basic report. I like to keep these short and sweet. Nobody wants to hear a bunch of numbers, but if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to take them. And if I cannot answer them, Ron Turner, I'm sure, is in the background and can help me with anything that I cannot answer.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for our treasurer? All right, seeing none, we will move on then to the executive director's report. Mr. Elmore.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. And I want to add my good morning to Mr. Chief Justice, the presiding justice, all of the justices of the court here with us, all of the members of the Board of Governors and friends. I always appreciate the opportunity to come before you all with remarks and an update focused on our bar operations. One of the most pleasant aspects of my role in supporting our members is that our bar operations are a steady ship. We are ready for 2022 and the second half of this bar year. We're ready because we've built necessary and incremental changes into the way that we work since the beginning of this bar year. In spite of recent necessary pauses, we are ready and have been ready with resuming programming and in-person meetings, with a keen eye on being flexible, safe, and smart. Our conference center team, security support, office manager, and everyone else involved in the process worked hard to put us in a good position to move forward and support member needs. That is not changing. We are ready because of the steady and consistent work from the usual suspects, our friends in the Office of the General Counsel, our teams in communications, sections, law practice management, meetings, Tifton, Savannah, membership, unauthorized practice of law, YLD, fee arbitration, finance, CLE, the transition law practice program, and our management information systems department. All of them, all of that, coupled with the good work from our partners in legislative affairs and the high school mock trial and law-related education programs. They too are ready. And we're grateful for the volunteer leaders driving the work of the committees, the popular and regular ones you all know, as well as the ones that may not be as recognizable, but are still active in supporting the bar's mission and purpose. As it relates specifically to 104 Marietta Street and our satellite offices, we're ready for 2022 and the continued management of these locations. Many of you know that our lease in the coastal Georgia office expires this year. As a result of a number of factors, including significant increase in costs, right, ready, and convenient access for visitors and guests, and additional accessibility issues, we will not renew in the current location. The office has served us well, and we are particularly fond of the legacy associated with the acquisition of the space and all that that meant to us and for us. But as we evaluate our growth and appropriate support for our members, we will look to new accommodations for our work and for our friends in that area. It's no secret that I'm biased, so believe me when I say Savannah will be well taken care of. Tony alluded to it, but we are ready from a financial perspective as our managers and volunteer leaders continue to keep the use and management of our resources top of mind. Like all other organizations, we are bracing for the impact of rising costs and increases in certain categories of expense. But we will evaluate our options thoroughly and accommodate appropriately. Until then, rest assured that we are good stewards of your bar dollars. We are particularly ready because of our people. We have said goodbye to some faces since our last meeting. Most of you are aware or have just learned that after 20 years with the bar, Michelle Garner left us to help support our friends at the Georgia Trial Lawyers Association. Aside from the fact that some of you in here could have given us a heads up, we can't help but think that this meeting feels just a little bit different. Michelle, like all of the teams, put in a ton of work and supported many of you directly in the role. We're grateful for what she did, and we will miss her. So when you see her, tell her hello and thank you. We've shifted some familiar faces since our last meeting. Jessica Oglesby has shifted her work with the state disciplinary boards to guide and support the Young Lawyers Division. Jimmy Goss has been able to build on her skill set with our ICLE department as an administrator there and also support the Young Lawyers Division. Nuvia Ball, who helped with our transition in the law practice program, has shifted to the role of clerk for our disciplinary boards. And with a role that helps us from a more internal perspective, Gavon Lewis has moved up to provide a greater degree of support for our management information systems department. And then we have Gaiki. If we had to see an opening in our meetings department, we could not be more pleased that Gaiki said yes to the opportunity to lead us there. She loves our members, knows our history and processes, is well connected with our partners in the industry, thinks 3 steps ahead, and would easily be a finalist for the most pleasant person to work with if that competition existed at the bar. I know she has helped many of you in the past and many of you for this meeting already, but when you see her, also say hello and thank her. We are more than fortunate with the way our managers groom and develop their teams. It keeps our bench deep and ready for the opportunity to get in the game and not miss a beat in our work, improving the quality of legal services and guiding the regulation of the practice. And we are grateful for them. One last acknowledgement related to the team. We have some new faces to welcome. Eva Buteau has come on board to support our law-related education program, and Kate Vienna and Lisa Peterson have said yes to roles supporting our ICLE department in the area of programs and content and design, respectively. It may not impact you all directly, but our human resources department has been working hard to engage, retain, and recruit these past few months. As one that has been focused on people for a large part of my career, they are ready and we're grateful for their work too. Speaking of ICLE, our ICLE department remains a top priority, along with rental of our space at the Bar Center, continual improvement for our operations generally, and anticipating opportunities or challenges to our work. It is a top strategic priority. We are actively making key changes to the organizational structure that will be beneficial to its long-term sustainability. Programming, new and old, modified, futuristic, industry-leading, cutting edge, however you want to describe it, remains top of mind. Thank you for your feedback and help in supporting that part of the process. So Elizabeth, that's all I have. This week, it's been 1 year since I officially stepped into the role, and I remain grateful and excited to come in and do the work. That part and the fact that we continue to operate free from an agenda, we look for ways that we can improve our processes, we embrace change, and we work to be better at supporting our members. None of those things will change. So if you all have questions, feel free to shoot me a message. If it's anything that you feel the group needs to hear, feel free to raise your hand. I never hesitate to call on us to let us know how we can help you in your work. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions for Damon at this time? And also congratulations on your 1 year. All right, seeing no questions, we will move on now to Alyssa Haynes in the YLD report.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here. I wish we were all in person, though. I first just want to say I'm very appreciative of the young lawyers' involvement and interaction with members of our judiciary and vice versa. I was pleased to see so many YLD members at the 175th anniversary of the Georgia Supreme Court at the Commerce Club in December. A day later, we had our public interest internship program and State Bar's Pro Bono Awards reception, which was on the rooftop at the Glen Hotel. And I am pleased to report that during that event, the Georgia Legal Services Program honored the YLD and presented us with an award to celebrate our 50-year partnership with assisting Georgians who can't afford legal representation and in bringing young lawyers together to make justice more accessible to everybody. I appreciate everybody who attended that as well. I also kicked off one of our new initiatives, which is the YLD Lunch and Listen. I kicked that off last month, where I asked young lawyers to make a conscious effort out to friends, colleagues, and other young lawyers just to check in on each other, see how people are doing, and to take them out to lunch. I know the holidays are a really hard time for a lot of people, myself included, and I wanted to add a little more humanness into a profession that can unfortunately be unpleasant or confrontational. I really appreciate everyone who has participated so far. I'm asking that we carry that initiative over into January, the new year as well. This is not something just for young lawyers to participate in. I encourage each of you to participate as well, or even to take a young lawyer out to lunch, make sure they're doing okay, meet new people. With the young lawyers, I have also asked them to let me know if they're doing it. There will be some gift card incentives for those who participate. So again, hopefully it encourages people to meet everybody and just to check in on each other and make sure we're all okay. Also, I have some exciting news about the signature fundraiser. I am very pleased that, God willing and COVID willing, we are bringing it back. Mark your calendar for April 30th at 433 Bishop. We will have sponsorship information shortly. Rest assured, we will be asking each of you for your generous donations. And for those of you who have not heard, the beneficiary that I have chosen for the signature fundraiser this year is going to be Kate's Club, which is something that's near and dear to my heart. It's an organization that helps children, teenagers who lost a parent or a loved one or a sibling. I lost my dad when I was younger. And so this is just my way to give back to such a great organization. And I hope you will join me at the signature fundraiser. It's going to be a great time. We're going to change things up a little bit, not do a formal black tie event. Think back to the days of college band parties. We're going to have super casual, great band, food and drinks, and it should be a good time. Lastly, our future meetings, hopefully we're going to be in person by then, but I hope you can join us for our spring meeting, which will be in Chattanooga, March 17th through the 20th at the Westin Chattanooga. And then, of course, our last and final meeting will be in conjunction with the Board of Governors at the annual meeting, June 2nd through 5th at the Omni Amelia Island. So I appreciate all of your support of the Young Lawyers Division. We hope to see you at all our events and committee meetings, and of course, the signature fundraiser. So thank you.
Thanks, Alyssa. Looking forward to, hopefully my band suggestion comes through. I've suggested the band we had at the annual meeting because I'm pretty biased about that band. It was good. Next, we're going to move on the agenda to propose revisions to the advertising rules. So before Paula presents, let me be crystal clear. We are not voting on anything today related to these rules changes. Like I told y'all at the annual meeting, I'm a fan of getting information out in front of you so that you've got time to consider it, time to think about it, time for input. This is something the committee wanted to do. This is a proposed final recommendation from this particular committee, but they wanted to get out in front of it so that they could get it in front of our members, get feedback, hopefully incorporate that feedback before they make their actual final recommendation and then send it to the executive committee and the Board of Governors. So no vote today. There was a wonderful CLE about this. I think Thursday we had it. It was, I think Paula told me 120 people attended. It's fantastic. I personally submitted this to the leadership at GACTL, GTLA, and GDLA for their consideration. We are serious about getting the feedback before we move this along the process. So as Paula's memo highlights, the goal would be for the committee to be able to have this up for a vote at the annual meeting, but depending on the amount of feedback that they get between now and then, that could change, but that would be the goal or hope that we could do. So with that, there's the caveat. And so for some of y'all, this might be the first time that you've heard about it. It's okay. We're not voting on it today. Paula, please take it away.
Thank you. I think you've said it all, actually.
I'm sorry.
But no, I think people, I want folks to be aware that we are considering revisions to Part 7 of the rules. They are the rules that deal with everything that you say publicly about your practice. And so it is your website, any blog that you publish, any advertisements that you have. The Part 7 also covers solicitation of business. It's the rule that prohibits runners. So there's a lot in there that lawyers care deeply about. And the goal of this committee, of the Disciplinary Rules Committee, was to reorganize the rules because they really have taken form in a kind of haphazard way as things come about. And we know that we need a new rule. We sort of slap it in at the end of the list there in Part 7. So you have 7.1 through 7.4. But some of the things in 7.4 really relate to things in 7.1. So we wanted to as the American Bar Association revamped its rules a couple of years ago, we wanted to take the opportunity to do the same thing in Georgia. So what I hope we have done is to keep the best parts of our current rules and move and adopt some of the best features of the American Bar Association's model rules. So the rules aren't completely different. They are reorganized. If you take a look at my memo on page 87 of the board book, that gives you a sort of a high level view of what's there. As Elizabeth said, we did a CLE presentation Thursday that we'll make available through the Disciplinary Rules and Procedures Committee link on the bar's website. It qualifies for an hour of CLE credit. It's free, but the CLE credit does cost $5 if you want that. So you got to pay your own $5. But we're happy to come to your local bar meetings as always. I mean, I'm happy to go anywhere where 5 lawyers or more are gathered around the state and give you your ethics hour. There's a lot to talk about generally in the world of ethics, but we want specifically for people to know about these changes and to have the opportunity to weigh in on them before they become final. So if you've got any thoughts about them, if you hate them, if you've got suggestions, whatever, please do just send an email to me, Kathy Jackson. Kathy with a K. Jackson is the staff person for the committee. Mike Bagley is the chair of the committee. Any of us would be happy to hear your feedback, and we will take it into consideration when the Rules Committee takes all its comments back and thinks through how they want this final version of the rules to look. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. All right, moving on to the president's report. Last meeting, we were pressed for time, so I rushed through and forewent my remarks, but I thought it was important to share with you all today what's been going on, at least as I see it. First, I want to thank everyone for participating in this virtual mid-year meeting. I know we've had a lot of great discussions. It wasn't the meeting that we wanted to have, insofar as we wanted it to be opportunity for people to be there in person who felt comfortable, but ultimately we thought this was the right decision for the bar and our membership and our staff. So I appreciate everyone's patience and understanding as we transition to this fully virtual format, but just even with the discussion that Paula just shared about the virtual CLE we had for the rules changes, I think we've still done a lot of great work for the bar. Again, I mentioned earlier the Leadership Academy. This is their first meeting of the 2022 year. The YLD meeting was very well attended yesterday as well. So we've been getting the work of the bar done, and I appreciate everyone's patience and understanding in that regard. So at the annual meeting, I told y'all that we've now called it a campaign because we don't know what else to call things like this, was Know Your Bar. And at the annual meeting, I highlighted the law practice management program of the bar and its offerings. And I wanted to continue that. And again, because of the fall meeting with the fulsome discussions we had, I forewent talking about the next thing I wanted to talk about, which was our succession planning programming. And I know that it's not a topic that people heavily enjoy discussing, but I wrote my last Bar Journal article was about this topic. And one of the things I said was I was prepared for a lot of things when I signed up to be state bar president, but the one thing I did not prepare for were the phone calls, the texts, the emails that you get when a lawyer is unable to practice law, either because of a permanent health issue or an untimely demise. And so I just wanted everyone here to know and everyone to share in their community that the state bar does have a succession planning portal. It's a way for you to think about ways in which you need to tell your family, your office, especially those of you who are in sole practitioners or in small firms, to have the key documents lined up, key ideas lined up about what you would do in the event you were suddenly unable to represent your clients. What would you do for your clients? Where are your files located? And so I just wanted to highlight this for everyone, to let them know that this program does exist. And if y'all can shift to the next slide. More importantly, I just highly recommend that you go to the bar's website to visit the health crisis portal so that you can see the information and the resources that are available on your bar dues statement, or either on your profile that you have at the state bar. When you can log in, you can designate someone to help wind down your practice if it's needed. Again, most important thing I've seen this past year is there's something that happens to an attorney and the clients don't know who to contact, they don't know how to get their file, their cases are still moving along. So just encourage everyone to look at that, think about it. And then what I like to tell everyone too is also tell the person that you're designating that you've designated them. There's nothing, I think, more frightening and terrifying to a lawyer too, in addition to finding out that one of their peers or colleagues is no longer able to practice law, but that maybe you're now responsible for these files. You are not their lawyer, but you have been designated to take care of their files. So with that, I just, I wanted to highlight that. And also the Chief Justice's Commission on Professionalism hosted a CLE earlier in December on this topic. And so I encourage y'all to reach out to Carly Greer, the director of the Chief Justice's Commission, to find out additional resources on that program. It was a really great program. A lot was learned that day, and we learned some things that we're doing really well at the bar and some things that we can work on messaging for as it relates to that, so that people know how to get to the resources they need. So with that, just I'll move on to the next thing in my report. I also wanted to talk a little bit, as was a little bit obvious with the video we had today. We've spent a lot of time the past 6 months engaging what I'm calling an legislative and executive branch outreach. We've really worked, you know, a lot of times you think about you need to connect with other branches of government during the session, but it's a little late then. Everybody's busy at that point. And so we spent the past 6 months really trying to cultivate our relationships with the legislature and with the governor's office to just let them know who we are, who the state bar is, and what we do. What I'm fond of telling folks when I meet them is, it's okay if you don't remember my name by the time we're done with this, but by the time we're done with this year, I want these branches of government to know who we are, know what the state bar is involved in, know how we can be resources, know what our value is to our members, so that then future officers or presidents don't have to spend the time educating. It'll be more of a, you know us, we're always at this event. We're always trying to help in this regard. We want the laws to be right. We want to make good decisions for our state. So I've spent a lot of time doing that in individual meetings and group meetings the past 6 months. Also, I've spent time during the past 6 months speaking to local and affinity bar associations. I'm always happy to come speak to your bar association via Zoom or in person, however you see fit. I think it's a great way to get to know the folks in the state, and for people to understand that the state bar, while our headquarters is in Atlanta, it is a statewide organization. And so I've really enjoyed those opportunities to reach out across the state and to have those conversations. And then finally, I just want to talk to y'all about something that I've kind of now christened a commitment to continuity. And it's really just, for instance, with the officers that are coming up, those that are going to be sitting in this seat in the years before us or the years following us, I've taken a lot of effort and time to sort of let people know big picture things that I see that are coming. It's really easy to sit in this space and worry about the day-to-day, but there are things that are multi-year projects, multi-year initiatives, things that just can't be accomplished in one bar president's year. Grumblings that you hear from our constituents, things like that. And so I've worked really hard with Sally and Tony and Ivy to share those things that I see that will be possibly on their horizon. And then similarly, I view that the same way with the YLD. I've worked, I'm fortunate to have enjoyed the officers that we've had in the YLD in years past and this year and the ones coming up. I got a lot of confidence in the YLD and spent a lot of time talking to them about things that I see for the future for both of our respective entities and both of our leadership paths. And so I think it's really important for the big bar folks to be more engaged in YLD events. They want us there. I think we should go and do and be present. And like I said, they're not future leaders, they are leaders now. And I've really hoped that some of our conversations and meetings have instilled in them the thought that we are all in this together and we are all better when we all can work together in that regard. And then finally, on this sort of commitment to continuity, just maintaining regular contact with our staff at the bar. Couldn't do any of this without them. We have weekly meetings, weekly Zoom meetings with Damon and Sarah and Paula to just talk about what's going on, what we see. We are always in contact and in touch, and we share, and I have so much hope and optimism for the bar going forward. I think we are in good hands. I'm excited about not only the leadership, our elected leadership that we have at the bar, but I'm also excited about the folks that we have internally at the bar, especially the growth opportunities that are being created and realigning people and giving people a sense of commitment and focus on the bar and understanding that their career paths can expand within the bar as well. I think that's just great for morale and for our bar as a whole. So with that, it's just a preview of some of the things we've been doing. A lot of the stuff has been behind the scenes. A lot of it's just been a lot of daily grind kind of stuff, but it has been such a pleasure the past 6 months. It has been so enjoyable. I wish I could have seen you all, some of you in person, those who wanted to be there in person. I wish I could have seen you there, but I appreciate y'all so much for everything, and keep the ideas coming. Again, if anyone wants to hear more about what the bar is doing and where it's doing it, I think that education is our #1 task, to help our members understand what our value is, and then to brag on ourselves to those outside of our profession so that they can know how amazing the State Bar of Georgia is. With that concludes my president's remarks. I commend to you the written reports that are found in the board book. People take a lot of time to get those together, so I do hope you can study those. Shifting in then to, I don't know if it's old or new business, technically by definition, doesn't matter. The Canine Cellmates clothing drive, we had scheduled to have a clothing drive at the mid-year meeting. We will have collection boxes at the State Bar's headquarters at least through January, maybe longer. So this is for gently used, clean men's clothing, again, to help those people that have decided to restart their life and turn it over after having been involved in either being incarcerated or otherwise. So it's really important, I think, to be able to provide those things and help people have the fresh start that they deserve. And then in an unsurprising turn of events, the Pure Bar class this afternoon is canceled, but I've already worked out with one Board of Governors member. I am volunteering that anyone who wants to come and either work out at the Pure Bar location at Chastain or Buckhead, I will come to class with you if we can find a convenient time. So let's just do this because we want to be healthy and good in 2022. With that, do we have any other comments or business for the good?
Yes, Elizabeth, we have a hand raised from Carl Cancino. We'll elevate.
Okay. Carl, you are up on screen.
Carl, you're muted if you are saying something. There we go. Well, not back. It's muted again, Carl.
Sorry, raised my hand in error.
Oh.
Okay.
Won't want to
we're
hold up.
happy to see you.
Sorry, so sorry.
It's okay.
That's okay. Any other questions or business? Any other hand raised?
No.
All right. With that, then if there's no other business for the good of the order, oh, yes, ma'am, Dawn.
Would you please repeat the Wildy fundraising info?
For the signature fundraiser? Yeah, we're putting together the sponsorship packets now, and we hope to have them sent out to everybody very shortly. So I will notify the executive committee as soon as those are ready, and then we'll distribute them to everybody.
The date?
April 30th at 433 Bishop.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right, guys, it is 10:59 and I am adjourning this meeting. I'll say it. Go Dogs. Bye, y'all.
Go Dogs.
Be safe.
Great job, Elizabeth.
Great job, guys.
Thank you. Hope everyone's safe, especially those of you who are traveling.